Hey guys, my name is Justin Brooks. I'm a filmmaker here in New York, and I actually thought I'd do a little bit of a different type of video for you today. I've got my coffee, I've got my camera. I wanted to actually sit down and just kind of talk about the rig that I'm going to be going out for a feature I will be shooting in about 2 days. I'm rigging out my camera literally as we speak, so I thought, why not make a video about this and talk about what my cinema rig is going to be going out on this feature. I'm going to be shooting for about 3 weeks in Massachusetts. There was some things that I needed to modify on my rig to be specific to this type of shooting. So I thought it'd be really fun to kind of bring you along and show you how I've rigged this camera to shoot a feature film. Now, I'm going to put my coffee over here because this table gets a little bouncy. So, without further ado, this camera is the Blackmagic Pixus 12K. And actually, this is not the camera I thought the director was going to want to shoot on, because we have access to plenty of cameras to shoot on through rental houses, through, friends of mine that I can borrow from. So when I first brought up cameras, I actually brought up the ARRI LF. We're shooting in a lot of tighter locations. It is a horror film. I thought a large format sensor would be helpful. Well, I guess that's not technically large format at this point. It's just full frame. But I brought up the ARRI LF, and it was actually the director of the film that brought up the Pixis 12K. They know that that I own the camera, and he had asked me how I felt about shooting on the Pixis because he had really, really enjoyed some of the images he had seen in my past work that I've shot with this. And I told him, I was like, absolutely. So I got to rig out my own personal little Pixis 12K to bring on this feature and shoot some very terribly bloody scenes. So I'm very excited, but I wanted to go through the rigging of this camera with you to show you exactly kind of what I've built out and the key pieces that you might want to think about when you're setting up for a short film or a feature. This will actually be the Pixis 12K's first feature film. I've shot multiple short films on it already, and I shot a doc series called Hunting Bundy, Chase for the Devil, available on streaming. I shot that on the Pixis 6K. Blackmagic was very cool, and they sent me a couple of cameras to shoot that on. But this is my own personal camera. And yeah, anyway, let's get through the rigging. Now, I have to say right up front, I'm not sponsored by a single one of these companies. Nobody sent me anything for free. I've paid for every little bit of this rig, including the camera. I'm definitely not a channel that's there yet where anybody's offering me anything for free. But you will see some common threads in here, in that I have really, really, really loved Condor Blue's Pixis cage. Now, I've used multiple cages for multiple cameras throughout the years. I've gone from, Zacuto to Shape to small rig. I've used a lot of Tilta cages. I really love Tilta cages. But it was really the Condor Blue cage that made sense to me here. The modularity of the Condor Blue cage is, I think, unmatched as far as the Pixis 12K is concerned. There's multiple different ways you can set this cage up. I have set this cage up in multiple different ways. There's 2 top plates, 2 bottom plates. Each can be used individually without the other. They are interchangeable, top and bottom, which is really cool. There's the ribs along the side, which it does allow to use all 4 ribs throughout the camera, kind of fully encompassing the camera. I do like to keep only 1 rib on the shooting side of the camera. The only reason I keep it there is typically I like to keep my record button a little shielded from, you know, the side of my face, but I also like to keep it here just in case I want to throw a handle or throw a monitor off of here. It's some really great mounting points. Now, over on this side, you can see there is the side plate here, which is actually really helpful. It screws directly into the camera. We've got the 2 ribs on either side. Now, the only downfall of this setup is the minute you put the front and back rib on this, it kills your ability to use the cold shoe mounts on either side of the side plate. That being said, I shoot with this camera all the time without these ribs on and just like a single top plate, single bottom plate, and the side plate, and it makes for a really nice, lightweight, quick, and easy rig. I throw a much smaller top handle on there when I'm running around, run and gun, handheld. Like I said, the modularity of the system is really cool, and I love to build it in different ways. It is truly adult Legos. I mean, I guess these days adult Legos are adult Legos. I mean, no 5-year-old is making, you know, the Lego Death Star. But these are my adult Legos, and I love creating different kind of setups with this rig. Now, I do have the cinema handle on top here, and the reason I chose that instead of like a smaller, lower profile handle is it serves a lot of use in that I keep my Pixus monitor up here. That's pretty much where this is going to stay. The Pixus monitor is on quick release so that it can move around. These are, again, the Condor Blue mini quick releases. I love those things. I've got them all over almost every one of my cameras. And I do have a eyelet up here for my Easy Rig, because I'm going to be using the Easy Rig for all handheld stuff here, and you need a pretty robust handle up there to handle the swinging around of an Easy Rig. So I wanted to use the cinema handle, and then eventually, if I add the extension on back here, I'm not sure. I'd like to keep it a little lower profile. I do love that the Pixis 12K is this small, so I like to keep a more compact camera. Now, if we move over here, this is one of the most important parts of this rig. And I think something that people kind of don't think about a great deal when they're thinking about their cinema rigs. And that is the Mutiny, I believe it's the Mutiny ISO 2. The ISO 2 does 2 things for this camera. One, it adds an extra SDI, which is great because this camera only comes with a single SDI. And when you're shooting a feature film, every department is trying to like attach stuff to your camera, it seems. So that's why I've got all the mounting points. That's why I've got the full cage on here, because I know sound is going to have a bunch of stuff to put on here. I know my ACs are going to have a bunch of stuff to put on here, you know, so we want to create available space. But the extra SDI, super helpful. It's a fantastic 12G SDI, great resolution out of that. Now, the most important thing that this does, and you can see this little light shining right here, is the Pixis, much like some of the Red cameras, the Komodo, I believe, has this issue, and various other cameras. The SDI can be burnt out if not using proper SDI protocol. What happens is if you have the SDI hooked up to a monitor and then that monitor plugged into power and your camera is powering on, it can throw a burst of electricity that actually follows through the SDI and fries all your SDI ports. So when you're actually turning on and off the camera for when you're like swapping out batteries or whatnot, you do what's called SDI protocol. And that means before you power off the camera, you pull the SDI off, and you pull it off of your monitor, you pull it off of your camera, and then it's safe to power down. And then You do the opposite when you're powering on. You power on the camera, then you're good. You power on the camera, you power on the monitor, and then you're good to plug in all your SDIs. Well, this makes it so that you don't have to do SDI protocol. All you have to do is press this button, the light goes off. That means all SDI ports are safe and protected from any burst of energy. So then you restart your camera, everything's good, you press this on, and it passes through signal again. Now, I know that that seems really simple, but I can tell you, I went out on that dock hunting Bundy without this, and I had to constantly count on my ACs to remember to use SDI protocol. And that's, I mean, honestly, all you can do is hope at that point that people are doing it correctly and not frying all your SDI ports. This makes it way easier. It's far easier to tell all your ACs, press the button, good to go. Press the button and we're on, you know? So that's a super important piece. It is a little expensive. It's somewhere around $500, but I can tell you $500, I add an SDI port, and I have peace of mind for when I'm powering on and off this camera, which happens again and again and again on any feature project. So this little thing is going to really save my stress level as far as, and save my SDI ports, hopefully. Now, the other thing I have up here, and I have it on a quick release again, is my, this quick release is a little stuck, is my tentacle sync, timecode sync. Now listen, a lot of sound people are just gonna have their own timecode jammer. I like to carry mine with me just in case. All I need to do is hand this to my sound person, they can jam it, and then they can use their tentacles for any other camera that might be on set. So again, the tentacle sync, not something you have to have. It's something I like to have because I like to have my cameras in timecode sync. I have multiple cameras that I go out on projects with. That's why I have the tentacle sync. So I thought I'd bring it along. I already have it in a place on my camera kit. The sound person doesn't have to like Velcro it to my rig. I hate that. It leaves a bunch of residue and goo all over your rig. So it's there, it's tidy, it's secure. And when I'm going handheld, it's not going to be rattling around and falling off. Now, another great part of this rig is the Condor Blue matte box. Now, I have had an RE matte box for many, 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 many years, and I have loved that matte box, but it's about 15 years old now, and it has really been through its paces. It was time to get a new matte box. The RE matte boxes definitely don't really depreciate, and they are very expensive. And I've been looking everywhere for like the right alternative, and it wasn't until I came across the Condor Blue matte box that I saw something that is actually compatible with a lot of the RE gear, so you can interchange a lot of this stuff with the RE matte boxes. But it's fantastic. It's really modular. You can add trays in there as you go on. There's a ton of different ways to use this matte box, and I really love it. I think it's really well built. It's just been an absolute pleasure to shoot with. The trays are really easy to use. Everything locks in really solid. I love that it has this little magnet on the shade because it's nice to just be able to close that, use that as a kind of temporary lens hood. So the Condor Blue matte box, a big thumbs up from me. And I don't currently have it attached, but this actually comes with a leash, so that you can leash this matte box to your camera, just to be extra safe if you're shooting up high over somebody or over a ledge and you're just wanting to make sure this thing doesn't just drop and hurt somebody. I'm actually going to be shooting quite a few overhead shots. We were going through the shot list, and there's a lot of bird's eye view shots with this camera, and that leash will come in handy because we can hang the camera and know that nothing is going to fall off and hurt any of the actors. Security is key. You want to make sure safety is absolute key. So make sure none of this is going to fall off of anything and harm an actor. That would be awful. So having that leash, that extra point of contact is fantastic. So that will be on here. Now, as far as handles, I've got my shape handles. These are, I mean, again, I think these are almost 15 years old and they still are doing the job. I love these handles. They are strong as all hell. I have never had any issue with them like slipping or anything. And they're actually the only quick release handle that I've ever used. And I've used a ton of them, including the Condor Blue quick release, that don't wiggle or make noise. These, when you lock them down, they're locked. There's no movement, there's no wiggle, there's no noise. You can count on a shape handle. They've done it for years. They were the first to innovate, as far as I know, concerning the quick release handle, and they did it the best. They do it the best. It is my absolute favorite handle setup. Now, I traditionally have come from a place where I love to hold on to the matte box when I'm on my shoulder. So I typically will leave my handles in this configuration here. So it kind of gets that feel and I don't have to put that weight on the lens. I'm still right here. I feel really in control of the camera when in handheld. I also, when I'm on my easy rig, this is a great point of contact. And then I might throw on that back handle and hold it back here, or I might have another handle in the back of the camera here on one of the ribs. Either way, I really love this kind of compact, right up front feel with the handles. So shape handles, fantastic. Some of my absolute favorites. As far as kind of a quick run through the rest of this stuff, I mean, I've got a Tilta V-mount plate. This is actually going to be replaced on the feature because we're going to be shooting gold mount. So I do have a gold mount plate that I'll be putting on here. I just have the V-mount plate for the moment. And then small rig monitor, I guess, what's this called? A monitor swivel right up top, connected again to the Condor Blue quick release. This is being able to put my monitor in any orientation, whether I'm low, high, on my easy rig or not. Now, this will not be here on the feature because I'll be having an AC, throwing a motor in, and doing all the focusing from afar. But let me see if I can pull this down and show this a little. I'm actually shooting this entire feature on the new Thighpoc Chimera C prime lenses. These are by and far my favorite modern prime sphericals. The look in these are absolutely beautiful. They have a very similar, they have a very vintage feel with a very like modern kind of sharpness and fidelity. I've really enjoyed these lenses. I think the only issue, and it's not an issue really, the only issue is just they're so compact that when you're fitting stuff onto a cinema rig, you're really like, you've got just the smallest amount of space to fit in. However, that makes them really wonderful for compact, easy riggable cameras. They can be used on gimbals so easily, and I think they were made to be able to use on the DJI Ronin 4D without having extra like counterbalances or anything. Anyway, the image is absolutely gorgeous, and really, like I said, they have that feel of vintage. I love the Soviet lenses. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite lenses of all time. This is the Helios 44. This is a 58mm Soviet lens. And if you've ever seen anything come out of this lens, you understand the beautiful image qualities that come from a vintage lens like the Helios 44. I mean, there's a good reason that these Soviet lenses were rehoused and used on Dune and the Batman and multiple other feature films. This has an absolute gorgeous image. And the great thing about the Thypox is they get very close to a very similar vintage aesthetic as far as the image is concerned. They do have much more modern fidelity, and you can throw them on a 12K and still get a really great resolving lens. However, they give you that really beautiful bokeh and beautiful qualities of a vintage lens. Now, a lot of people would call those qualities mistakes. But if you look at some of the greatest lenses that cinematographers have used through the years, you'll realize, especially if you go into anamorphics, that those lenses are really problematic lenses. There's a lot of what people would call mistakes in the image. But the mistakes in the image are what create an organic feel to the image. I mean, the mistakes in the image, that's really the fingerprint of the lens. That's what tells me these people shot on a Helios, is when I see the mistakes of the optics in this. So I don't gravitate towards a tack sharp, super clinical, clear, see-through piece of glass. Now, there's plenty of cinematographers out there. Roger Deakins is one of them that loves that kind of lens and is usually brought to the RE Master Primes for that very reason. And I mean, that's definitely worth its weight in gold. Obviously, Roger Deakins is one of the most phenomenal DPs of all time, but I myself really do like a bit more of a character on my lens. I love to use that character to help tell the story. And so I gravitate towards a lens that has a little more color and a little more something to say. So the Thypox Chimera Cs, absolutely fantastic lenses. They have been super fun to play with. And actually this set, this will be their very first feature film as well. So I'm excited to shoot on these guys. I'll report back as to how beautiful the image is, I'm sure, going to be. Let me share how easy this is to go up on the shoulder, because I feel like shoulder rigs are something that even I myself have been battling for years, trying to find the right shoulder rig, and you always end up with this giant, like, wild spidery thing, and you realize as you get better and older and more deep into your career that you don't need all this extra stuff. But my rig is just this little guy right here. This is a small rig shoulder mount, and is actually permanently fixed with a dove plate. Now there's a dove plate right under here so that I can just slide this whole rig right off the dove plate, slide the whole rig right on here, and then I've kind of got this little rosette arm that I've built out, and this will hold my monitor. So I just take the monitor off the quick release there, I put the monitor right on this, and I've got my shape handles, I've got my monitor, I've got an extra little bit of 15mm rods if I need them, and that's all I need for my shoulder rig. And on here I've got the Lettuce Direct leather shoulder pad. I've had this for a very long time. I've shot a lot of documentary and a lot of reality TV. So a good shoulder pad is one of the very first things I think any TV cinematographer picks up. You just, the shoulder pads that come on some of these rigs are absolutely atrocious, and you know, comfort is key. And there we go. Now I've got my shoulder rig set up all I had to do was move that monitor that's already on a quick release. I slid that onto the dovetail, and I've got a good compact little shoulder rig right here. It's really great, really small. You're tight to the body. I like a rig that's really tight. I keep my arms in tight so that I can really use the core to kind of swing around the camera to keep this steady. It's a really nicely balanced rig, all the weight just kind of central on my body. It's a pretty fantastic little setup, really easy to use, easy to swing around. Yeah, so that's the shoulder rig kind of setup of the camera. You can see everything's pretty compact, really easy to shoulder, really easy to go from shoulder to tripod to dolly, any setup you really need. That's the rig. I'm about to shoot for the next 3 weeks on this feature. It's going to be a really fun horror feature. I'm excited to be part of it. Anyway, thanks so much. I know this is a little different of a format for the videos. I thought it'd be fun to kind of take you on the journey with me as I rig this camera out. I really love the Pixis 12K. I think it's going to be a phenomenal camera to shoot this feature with, and I love this setup. So like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, and hopefully I can keep you informed as to how this feature is going and just kind of the BTS of shooting it all. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.